Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use GIMP. Now, if you don't know what GIMP is, it is a image editing program, though it can be used for much more than image editing. It could be used for complete just basic image creation. You can draw using GIMP. You can do that with most image editing programs, but me personally, I feel as though GIMP is special. I may be biased, but that is how it goes. So I'm not going to waste any time. So I'm going to drag this down a bit. Now when you first open GIMP, this is what you will see. You will see the main window in the background here, and two little windows, toolbars, toolboxes. The left toolbox has all of your tools and the options that come with each tool that appear in the bottom. Here you have your selection tools, and these are rather self-explanatory. First, however, let's go to File and then New, and let's create an image this big. There are many other preset sizes here that you can choose from, and if you press Advanced Options, you can choose what you want the background color to be and what color space you want, whether you want red, green, and blue, or if you want to paint in grayscale. We're going to stick with the defaults in the advanced and just press OK. Alright, so let's go here to the paintbrush real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to click this button here, which creates a new layer. You never want to paint on the white background layer. Unless your background is transparent, you never ever want to interact with it. And this is because, say I draw a head, right? Oh, hold on, perhaps I should draw on the background. Draw a head, and then say I want to color it in. Well, if I take the skin color and try and color it in, you can see I'm having a bit of a challenge. However, if I were to draw the head in a new layer, and then make another layer for the color of the head, as you can see, the color does not mess with the line. And then I can just erase the outside, so that way the color is only on the inside. A little trick of the trade there, really. No, it doesn't have to do with GIMP. But, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a quick few shapes. One using the pencil tool, and one using the brush tool. Now, you immediately notice the difference between the circle made using the pencil and one using the paintbrush. The pencil, as you can see, uses pixels, and not in the same way that the paintbrush does. There are no transparent pixels when using the pencil tool, unless you are to set the opacity down, like this, but even then the edges are hard. You are not going to have soft edges that transparent pixels create, such as you have with the paintbrush. And that's the main difference between the two. Very rarely will you find yourself using the pencil tool, except in specific circumstances. Now back to the selection tools. Here you have the fuzzy select tool, which is very similar to the color tool, but there's one difference. They will select one object. So if I were to click this red circle, as you can see, only the red circle is selected. If I select the white background, then it selects everything but the white background. This tool, however, if I select the red circle, it also selects this circle, because this is the same color. However, if I use the fuzzy select, or as I like to call it, the object select, it only selects this circle. Now one thing you're noticing right away is it also selects some of the white. And say you only want to select it to here rather than this whole area. Well, it's easy. Here you have the threshold. If you lower the threshold, then the circle will begin to shrink. However, if you raise the threshold, it will grow. Now here we have a different instance. The problem here is it does not register this as pink or a lighter shade of red, because this is all the same shade of red, and that's one thing you need to keep in mind when using most image editing programs. As far as the program is concerned, right here is the same shade of red as here. Now I'm sure you're listening to this and you say that's ridiculous, but you need to keep in mind we made this on another layer. So this red is the same as this red, just transparent. If I were to have had another color there, such as the background color, and I made the same shape, and then I selected it, as you can see, now it only selects this inner circle, which is close to the exact color. If I raise the threshold, it'll start to collect colors that are similar to the color that you selected. But not exactly, just the most similar. And the more I raise the threshold, the more similar colors it selects. If I were to select this color, however, notice that as I go out, it instead makes a donut shape, because now the inner color is not as similar as the other colors are to this color here. And that's one thing important to note. You might need to use the fuzzy select tool or the color select tool quite often when using GIMP. Let's see here. Now I'm not going to show you every tool because I do not use every tool in GIMP. I'm only going to show you the ones that I use for my own art or photo editing purposes. So this measurement tool might be helpful. And look at that, it is fairly helpful. Use info window. Look at that. Distance, it tells you the distance between this right here and there. It is useful if you need that exact measurement. Learn something new every day. This is the move tool. The default setting is pick a layer or guide, which means it will not move what is on the current layer, but whatever you select. So if I were to select the background, even though I have the current layer selected, it will move the background. If I move the current layer by clicking on an object in there, it will move that whole layer. However, if I move the active layer, it will only move the layer selected, no matter where you click. As with most programs, Control-Z will undo any actions. One thing that's nifty about this is if you go here to this little band-aid looking picture. Oh, I always thought that looked like a band-aid. It turns out it's two arrows. Learn something new every day, don't we? If you click that, you can revert back to any previous action, back to when this was only a small circle. And this can be very helpful if you need to go back very far to a specific instance, and you don't want to risk Control-Zing too far back. Alright, now let's come here to the Scale tool. The Scale tool is very simple. The corners will adjust both the Y and X axes of the size of the picture. This, up and down, this left and right. It's very simple. This middle here will move the picture, so you're able to move it around once it's resized to get it in just the right position to see if it's the right size. However, if you just click and then go here to this little doodad and you click it, the picture, when you're scaling from the corners, will always retain its aspect ratio, so nothing becomes too flat. like this, or too skinny. It's very, very useful. If we go here to the shear tool, you can shear an object, which distorts it like this. Adds a bit of a parallelogram effect, if you will. If we go here to the perspective tool, you can see that it adds a bit of a perspective, as if what you drew is on a surface and you're moving that surface around. So say this was a wall, and these circles were drawn onto that wall. Adjust that a bit. Now it looks like these circles, if I had a wall there, were painted onto that wall. The flip tool is very self-explanatory. It flips the layer horizontal or vertical. The cage transform tool is very useful. What you do is you draw a hopefully even cage. I'm just going to make a quick one. Yes, I know. It's very much not equal. What the cage transform tool does is, if you were to move all these down and then move these down, such as this one, and then this one, you can see that the shape becomes distorted according to the cage. The more simplistic the cage you draw, the more severe moving one of these will be. And then you just press enter to finish. And you may need to erase this left behind, but that's not too difficult. Alright. And then the text tool is, it's a text tool. You can write things, change the color, and the font. GIMP has a very large selection of fonts to choose from. The Wingding font doesn't work very well, however, sometimes. You might need to... You might need to import your own Wingdings font into GIMP for it to work. That's strange. I could have sworn I used Wingdings in here before, but oh well. And then the paint bucket tool is another very self-explanatory. I'm going to select an area here in the background. Let's fill that in with green. And as you can see, it just fills in an area with a color. The blend tool is very nifty. Say if I were to select this and I want to give it a very basic shadow, I would choose FG to transparent. FG is this top color here. BG is this color. FG stands for foreground, while this stands for background. Transparent means that the FG will go into transparency. One thing to note about using the blend tool is wherever you start is where the gradient change will start, which means that this entire area here behind the point will be the foreground color, and the actual blending and gradient won't start until the beginning here, and it will not end until there. Past the end point is where everything will remain the same. There's also different kinds, such as radial and square. Now it looks like we made a bit of an eyeball. The eraser tool is, well, obviously an eraser tool. Notice I can't erase this because it is on the background layer. The background layer always will be white. It does not become transparent because there is no alpha channel to it. And that's because we did not change the settings for it. If you were to make a blank layer and then right click it and press merge down, it now gains an alpha layer, which means it can be made transparent. For now, we're going to keep its lack of a transparent layer. Alpha. The airbrush, I don't use it too often. It can be useful for some things. Some people use it quite often. Me, not so much, but you might find a use for it. I hope seeing me use it can give you a basic idea of what it does. The ink tool is rather unique. The slower you move, the bigger this becomes. The faster you move, the smaller. And with all these different doodads here, you can actually change the settings for it. The clone tool isn't something you'll use too often. In fact, I don't think I've ever used it. Healing tool is another one, again, that you won't use often. There's some of these tools that you aren't going to use often, some of them you will. And it's all up to how you use the program. The blur tool is for blurring, so we can make these edges here fade in to the rest of the image. Sharpen is a bit of a tricky tool to use, mostly because it's not the greatest. As you can see, it doesn't sharpen the image back to what it was before. It does its best, but it can't undo a blur. What it tries to do is, make the edges very hard, but it has trouble getting rid of transparent pixels outright. Well, transparent pixels, I mean blended in pixels. Transparent pixels, such as ones that do not actually merge with another color, those can be more easily manipulated with the sharpen tool. Blur you'll mostly use for backgrounds when you want to put more focus on the character. Smudge is another favorite of mine. It can smudge things, as the name implies. It can be used for artistic or photo manipulation purposes. I could sit there and do that all day. And then the dodge and burn tool. By default, this is set to dodge, which will brighten the colors. And this is according to the midtones. I don't actually know what that means. All I know is that they have different things. Shadows, I guess, are for shadows. Highlights are for highlights. Uh-oh. So that's shadows, midtones, and highlights. However, burn makes it darker. Shadows, midtones, and highlights. As you can see, they all make the image darker in a different way. And depending on what you're trying to do, one might be better for shadows than the other. But they're all great. They're all wonderful. Whew, that's scary. And there you go. We've covered the tools used in GIMP. Another thing I want to touch on are the create options and the filters. So if we go here to create, and then logos, I don't use buttons or anything else in here very much, but they do stuff. So you're able to create these little bump land maps, which are fairly random. But I mostly use logos, and I use it very much, and nobody is ever the wiser. They always think I'm some photo editing genius, when in reality, I just pick something like, say, glowing hot. And then choose a nice font. And then press OK. And then kablamo. I just remove the background. Merge those two layers. Select all. Control C. Go to here. Control V. Resize it. Move. And then bam. You have yourself a beautiful, professional-ish looking logo. A nice little collection of words to impress your friends. And there's many different options. One a lot of people may use is Alien Glow. And you can choose from a variety of different glow colors. And then click OK. And glowy woo. Merge. All. And these are very, very useful. I use them all the time, like I said. And there goes my secret. I'm gonna miss having that secret. But it was worth it to give this knowledge to you. And like anything else, you can use all the tools we've used on these. Now, you'll notice that these have a yellow and black dotted rectangle around them. This is the border of that layer. You cannot edit outside of a layer's border. You can increase the border size by combining it with another layer. And now this layer has the same border as our canvas. Now I'm sure you're wondering, how do I make the canvas itself bigger? Maybe you made this a bit too small and the character you're drawing is too large. Well, you go to Image and then Canvas Size. And as you increase the Y, say 100. What? Huh? Wait, what? Oh, just silly me. That's the offset. You want to go to here and change it. As you change this, you'll notice the Y increases towards the bottom rather than the top like we're normally used to. You're able to drag the image to offset it. So say these are the feet. You can move it to the bottom. The same can be done with X. And you can use these to be more precise. Or you can press center and it'll put it in the center. And any new layer you create will be the size of the canvas. So if you merge that down, then bam! Isn't that amazing? We've created a really good work of modern art here. We could put this in a museum. I'm proud of it. And I hope you are too, because you helped make this by watching this video. Now, we can come here to filters, because no, we're not done yet. Filters are another thing you might use fairly often. Now, all of these will affect the image in some way. Light and shadow are fairly unique, however, in that they create object filters. Some of these also do the same thing, but they're mostly here in lights and shadow, such as the lens flare, which creates You guessed it, a lens flare. However, you'll notice that it is obscured by this red, because it only creates it on the bottom image. Well, what if we were to make a new layer, select lens flare, and then put it in that same spot? You'll notice nothing is there, and that is because many of these filters depend on an image actually being there. Filters are the last thing you want to apply, because you're going to want to merge down everything unless you want the filter to appear behind something else. Then you do not merge that layer, but everything behind that something else you want to merge together using the merge down. We go here to filters, lens flare, and put it right where we want it. So right here is a good spot, and then bam, we have ourselves a beautiful lens flare. There's also many others that you can play around with, such as, let's see, edge detect, neon, which is a very spooky filter. Ooh, I got scared. Lapis, which does its best to create a sort of trace of everything. Sable, which is somewhat similar to Lapis, but it has its differences. Edge, which is very similar to the neon. And then these artistic ones, such as soft glow, which provides a bit of an aesthetic photo effect. These are the types of filters you would use to make your Instagram photos look extra special. And well, I think this is finished. Thank you very much for coming with me on this journey in GIMP. To this day, I don't know what GIMP means. So what we're going to do is we're going to export. Give this a random name. I don't know what gamma overlayer offset is, but I always keep it. And make sure it's a PNG, because that's the best. Export, and there you go. You always want to do that because that'll turn it into an image file, whereas if you just click save, you save it as a GIMP file, which other websites or pretty much anything does not accept except GIMP. Maybe Photoshop, I don't know. Anyways, again, thank you all for coming with me, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day.